All right, hi, I'm Larry Fry. Marlene is my guest host, and
Hi.
we have a very special guest today, Michelle Pouchal. Did I say
Hi.
that right?
You did.
I
I'm
did. Okay, I'm
impressed.
wonderful.
I am impressed.
Okay, Michelle is the CEO and founder of Recruiting Rockstar. All right, and basically, her job is to push everybody's career and catapult them in the right direction and get them started and get them going, no matter whether they're newbies or if they're changing their career in a different direction. Michelle has the tools, her company has the tools to get you there, and she's going to talk about that right now. And we think that's extremely important in this day and age when everybody's reinventing
No
themselves. What do
kidding.
you think, Marlene?
Yep, I think COVID definitely changed the world, and especially in the area that you're in, Michelle.
It really did. And when COVID hit, I was even at a loss for myself, thinking, what am I going to do? I've been recruiting for 25 years. Who needs a recruiter now? Because businesses were all on hold, and we didn't know when we were going to come back to work.
Yeah.
So I had to figure out what I was going to do after 25 years of a career. And a friend said to me, "Oh my God, you do resumes." And I'm like, "But who needs a resume during COVID?" But then I realized COVID's not going to be forever, and people do need resumes. So I decided I'm going to sit on talent conferences all over the world, not just in the US, but global, and Apple, and banks, and technology. And I realized all of them were saying how important resumes and interview skill sets are. And I thought, wow, I think I'm onto something. And the past 2 years, I realized that 90% of people's success is their number one skill, and it's how to interview and get that resume as a business card. And it's something that kids, older people, any age, we don't learn that in school because no one ever really had a need. It was easy to get a job. After college, you went on a training program. You were in a job a few years. A friend had you network, and things have changed so much. People say to me every single day, "I never wrote a resume. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. What do I do?" And I'm like, wow, this is why I'm here. And I'm like, I found my second calling in life now.
So you're.
Besides
Okay,
playing,
that's good.
besides playing golf with Larry.
That's right. That's right. She's quite the golfer. And so's Marlene, apparently. Marlene's quite the golfer too. I'm telling you.
Larry's afraid to play with me, though.
I'm afraid.
He's afraid to
I'm afraid
lose.
to play with myself.
We're talking
Oh,
golf,
okay.
just
I
for
forgot.
everyone to know. We're talking golf.
Oh, this is a family.
Don't take it there.
Marlene's gonna get started down the end.
Don't hand me lines like that, Larry.
You know, they say
please.
don't mix business and pleasure. I believe mix business with pleasure.
Absolutely. So tell me, how would you get a person, let's say a guy that's just out of school and he's looking for a direction where to go, how would you help them find the proper career for them? Let's say they're
the first thing
in engineering. They graduated engineering.
You know, it's funny you say that. I just actually am working with a young graduate. He just moved to San Diego, and he's looking for a software engineer role. And I don't know about every single field, so before I have a conversation with them, I try to have them fill out a form for me. It's a one-page form.
Okay.
And when they tell me what they're looking to do or some jobs they're looking at, then I research that job. So I know the keywords, and I do research. So I've learned about so many fields in 2 years now. And then I try to pull out a skill set from you that we can do a resume and interview tips based on what you're looking for. Because I would say most people that are looking for a certain role do have the skill set. I recently worked with an older gentleman who's been, I actually pulled out his resume. He's been in technology for many years, and he decided he doesn't want to be with a tech firm now. He wants to be an adjunct professor at a local college. And, you know, so here you're working in IT, and now you want to be in education. And we revamped his resume, not lies, but just tweaked it a little bit with the correct skill set and the summary, which is huge, and the core competencies and skills. And I can go through the whole outline. And we did his resume, and within 3 to 4 weeks, he is now at a local university.
Cool.
Because really, what you're doing is you're creating their sales.
Exactly.
It's a sales
and
job,
I keep telling
right?
people a resume should be one page. It's really just a business card to get in the door. So many people send me resumes, 2, 3, 4 pages. A resume is read in 7 seconds or less. Harvard and MIT, and I'm sure so many other universities have done studies. Then you get recruiters that don't research what the jobs are in the field that the direct line of business is doing, like I do. And maybe some do, but most of them, if you don't have the keywords on the resume, automatically it's deleted. If your resume is not in the proper ATS system format, we're deleted. I actually have a proprietary software system that I license from a company. So I'll take a resume, and right away I know if your resume is going to fit in. If it doesn't go in my tracking, it's not going in anyone's tracking.
So basically, when you produce the resume, they these clients of yours, that they take that resume that you produce or fix for them, you prepare for them, direct specifically for them, and you have them go ahead and solicit the job interviews, correct?
Yes, and then a lot of times I even have to teach them. Most people, many people, don't know how to use LinkedIn right now too, because that's a fairly new tool. I've used it since 2008 for like recruiters like me, which I'm really a recruiter, has been my bread and butter. I was like, as soon as LinkedIn was like came up, it was like I didn't have to call J. Crew and ask the receptionist who the assistant buyer and the tops was. I like it was like, oh my God, there was tons of information for me waiting to make millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
It just was the best tool.
Do you have a pool right now of employers, potential employers that want employees? They're looking.
I do, but I specialize in apparel and hospitality. But if I have somebody in fintech, and I'm working with a young guy now. He's always worked at venture capital startups. So I even teach them how to search for the recruiters on LinkedIn. When I'm working with somebody, because I'm a fairly small business, a woman-owned business, I'll spend the time because my business has been built up on referrals, and I feel like if I give a little bit more, I've changed so many people's lives. Even if I'm selling my service, writing a resume, I want to help you the whole way. I'm speaking to a woman today at 3 o'clock. She keeps interviewing and she hasn't gotten one job, and the more I speak to her, she's been negative, and she doesn't have the skill set because she's been with the same company 17 years.
Wow.
Now she's losing her job.
Wow.
And she's frantic. And I said, you know what, calm down. I did her resume, retweaked it, not live, but just, I said, your words. She now has an interview, a virtual interview Thursday at 1 o'clock with a consumer goods company. Because you can also open up, if someone's in the food business, they can do apparel, they can do food, they can do education. So skill sets can transfer to every single field.
What would you say is the most popular position in the hospitality business that you're looking for? We're not talking about. You're not talking about cleaning staff.
I do more corporate level, like I'll do director of revenue, director of spa services, housekeeping, even front and house back beverage manager. I also do a lot in the apparel industry, so it's very analytical. And again, I can take somebody that has data analytical skills that's been in banking and is bored in banking. They want to be in a fast-paced fashion industry in New York City. So I just translate that data skill set, which is huge right now, and so is operations strategies. So many of these and titles have changed. In 2 years, I've never heard of so many partnership building, and titles are new. Not only are jobs new. So I've had a...
Well, even, you know what, I was going to say, even the language has changed. Like now when you see people put their resumes in, a lot of times it says, identifies as he, she, or they, or like older people, older generations like myself, we don't know how to put it together properly to be now capable of getting a job, to show that we have all of that we're taking in. That's all the political stuff and all of the stuff that's been happening. It's got to be hard for an older person to accept change, because that's usually...
It is. So I try really to work a one-on-one with you on a personal basis to make you feel really comfortable. Like the woman in 3 days, she's scared, she's nervous. So I want to work with her. And, be honest, where, you know, there are definitely 5 tips, and I try to go over this with everybody. And like, one is, you know, definitely get dressed still. Like, sometimes I even forget to tell people, just because we're Zooming and it's virtual, you still get dressed, look presentable. I lost a placement last year. The girl was in bed in pajamas doing a Zoom. It's not acceptable. Even if we're working home, remote, we still have to look. You have to look professional.
But if they're not wearing pants, you just tell them not to get up, right?
Well, that's true.
I was going to say, if she was in bed, what profession was she going for?
It's hospitality.
You know? Hospitality.
But,
We digress.
Okay. This is okay. So, what would you recommend? Okay, we passed the point where you've prepared a proper resume for the person. You screened them and you pigeonholed them basically into this, and this. These are the type of positions that they could actually apply for, which they're qualified for. Would you recommend them going back to school to get re-educated, re-qualified?
No. Then I recommend, if you take a company, research the company. Half these kids don't, or older people, don't research the company. See their mission statement and find out what they're like. And then, you know, you may not even like what they're about. You may not believe what they have, or you might say, you know what, if this job doesn't work out, I'm going to fight every single way to get in. Send a letter to a recruiter and say, I know it's a crazy busy time, maybe we can have a virtual coffee. Go outside the box and do something just a little bit more to get an interview with the person. Because just sending a resume too, they get thousands a day now. You got to do something, think outside the box. Even send a little video of yourself.
So I was going to say, like, you used to put a cover letter together with a resume. What do you do now? A cover email, a cover text? Like, how do you do this?
I offer cover letter services too, but a lot of companies don't even ask for that anymore. I suggest sending a little note on LinkedIn, and people go, but it's so much work. And I go, right, but how much time do you spend walking your dog during the day? They go, a couple of hours. I'm like, you're sending resumes out for about 20 minutes. And you think that you are just so skilled and so great, and your piece of paper is going to get you. You need to put work into looking for a job. It's not easy.
Is there a special way to use fonts or to use highlighting or anything that can make your resume stand out?
No, they actually say just to do like a basic Times, very
just basic,
clean
okay.
cut. Sometimes I get designers with their pictures and different fonts, and they don't even upload to a database. If you're a designer and you're in the creative field, save your creativity for your portfolio, for your resume.
No, not in the resume.
Okay. All right.
Not on a resume. Right. And make resumes black and white. When they do colors, you don't know where to look. And some people do boxes here and circles here and percentages.
It gets confusing for the guy that's looking at it, or examining it.
Right. So half these people, especially, they don't want to be bothered. They delete it. And the other big thing is some people go, oh, I'm a jack of all trades. I'm at a small company. I can do everything. And that is a very big problem. You may be able to do everything, but if you focus on something.
Well, that's like Marlene. She's a jack of everything. She hooked up the technical.
And I'm sure
she moves the
amazing,
camera. She's a tech genius. Okay, so if I was
I am.
So if I was going to go
Not.
if I was going to go apply for a job today, which I might have to after this podcast.
And after your golfing skills.
Get my golfing skills, yeah.
That's
I couldn't even play my balls the last time.
That's out.
next up, Larry, we're going to try pickleball.
If I'm looking to get into a job, let's say I've been a trained, let's say, doctor. All right. Now that would be a very bad example.
No, it wouldn't be at all.
Well, how would you retrain me? How would you create
my sister, it works for pharmaceutical recruiting companies.
There you go.
They love to take doctors that are looking to get out of medical, but have the knowledge in the pharmaceutical world.
Right.
So that opens up a whole world there. Whether you could be a salesperson or a CEO or a CFO, there's so many avenues you can go, still in medical, but maybe with a pharma company.
How about a drug user?
That could be too.
To re-identify themselves.
Maybe
You could be a
drug-
tester.
How about a drug dealer? You know
Larry
what?
the
Maybe a
lab rat.
Wait, what's that guy? The famous one?
Larry the taste tester and
The Colombian
Tylenol.
Who was the Colombian guy that they finally caught?
Who? Oh, there's a Colombian guy?
Remember they found his wife.
Oh, in Mexico they caught. Oh no, you're right. You're right.
Mexico,
No. I can't remember the name, and I can't Google it now, so it's not. But anyways, what are they retraining him now for a different job?
Well, maybe,
yeah, peeling potatoes in the prison.
He might be a chef. So there you go. Even in prison, you can read things extremely difficult. It's also made extremely difficult for me with applicants. Everyone wants remote or hybrid. Well, guess what? January 1, companies want people back. They go out to dinner. They go to concerts. They fly. They vacation. Why can't you go back to work?
Why do you think that is?
The one thing about COVID to me opens up my eyes how unfortunately people are extremely lazy, especially the younger generation. Very lazy. Well,
So
not even young,
working at
lazy.
home created an atmosphere where, put it this way, they were so lackadaisical. They didn't get the output that the company wanted. You know,
Right.
and that's huge.
A lot of people have not produced. I've been working from home since my twins are 18 months old. So in 2019, I was so excited. My twins were out of the house. I was taking care of my parents, and I said, you know what? I found great office space. It was a co-working space. I was so excited. I went to co-working. I made friends. I used to love to go to the coffee pot. I went to the water fountain. We would go out for dinner. And then 6 months later, COVID hits, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know how I work from home for all of these years. People are missing that social interaction, and I think it's a very big skill right now that people are angry. They're so angry. They feel entitled, and these kids want $100,000. They haven't even worked 2 years. Or people don't want to commute to a job anymore. Well, I don't know. To me, it blows my mind. How are people paying bills?
Well, you know what? Working from home too, if you are lazy and there's no one that you have to show you're actually working at your desk and not doing laundry, watching TV and doing things, it's hard to stay really focused and get the job done if you're a certain personality type working from home. Not everyone is conscientious where they'll say, okay, you know, it's 7 a.m. and I see this important thing coming in. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to work on it. So it tended to make us lazy. And the thing about going back to work though, and I will tell you, I went back to work during COVID because not at the job I'm doing now, but I had a chance to do something else. And nobody there agreed with wearing masks and doing things
you
like
were a
that.
stripper,
So COVID,
right? Okay.
yeah, right. And the barf bags were easy to distribute. Yes. Yep, no problem.
Well, she wore a mask
so-
as a G-string.
I'm not going there. Okay. So what I was going to say is I actually left this job that I really wanted because they were all coming into my space, all these young people. They didn't care. They weren't vaccinated. They wouldn't wear masks. And it did create a problem that would have normally never happened.
Right.
But I had grandchildren who couldn't be vaccinated, and I did not want to be exposed, especially this was before all the variants and stuff like that. It was more, you know, where they really didn't know a lot of what was going on. But it was like, you can take a vaccine, start doing it. Wear a mask. If you're going to come into my space, respect me. So that created a problem with going back to work, even though I wanted to. So I'm wondering how that's going to play out now, even with going back to an office, because
I know.
COVID's still there.
Right.
And so what?
It is.
It's a flu, and that's what's going on right now. That
Not for something, and they're immune compromised, right?
and they do, then they should be wearing a mask and not a
Yeah.
cloth mask. Cloth masks do nothing. It's like wearing a tissue paper on front of your face.
Well, actually, I wanted to go back to that,
Okay,
Michelle. Like
sure.
you said, there were 5 tips.
Yes,
One is get dressed and get out of
Definitely
bed.
get dressed.
perfect.
The
Yeah.
second thing is, sometimes an interviewer is going to ask you, like, what's your biggest weakness? And that's okay. Be honest where you think you can improve. Like, sometimes, I go through things so fast, I miss a small detail. And I even know with me, sometimes I'll read something so fast and I say, just slow down, like, don't rush. Then I put the right keywords in. Also, emphasize, like, problem-solving skills. If sometimes they'll ask you how you're going to, like, think outside the box and solve a problem. I also had a girl, a youngish girl, and the company asked her, what's your favorite type of music? And she was being interviewed for a tech firm, and she said Rolling Stones. And they were shocked that his 22-year-old kid. So that made her stand out, and she gave the reason why that was her favorite musician and favorite band.
But that was legit. She wasn't making that up.
It was legit, but I think that every one of us has something unique that can make us different. Instead of like, oh, I was in honor society, and instead of listing a million things, pick one thing that maybe makes you different.
So you said 7 seconds to read a resume. What are they looking for before they say, swipe right, swipe left?
They're looking for, the most important thing is right under your name is a summary, and it should be 3 to 4 sentences. And it also shouldn't say, I'm a leader, and I could do this, and I could do that. It's more like I'll use the word like dynamic or passionate, enthusiastic, and like design, plan, manage, and bring your skill set in 3 to 4 sentences.
Do you have a sample from a resume?
I do have a sample.
Okay.
You'll give it to us.
Can we-
You'll give it to us as a JPEG, and I'll post it.
Okay.
Can you read it without
No,
giving
no.
away
Whatever,
the person?
Yeah, talk
Well,
about it.
I can, but like, just for example, like the guy sends me his resume, a holistic, oriented, critical thinker, consummate professional, highly motivated team player who applies analytical patience, flexibility to all work. It really says nothing about him.
Okay.
I change it to dynamic risk management IT professional who implements engineers, and I get more info about him in 3 to 4 sentences.
All that
and
for being
what-
a Walmart greeter?
But so it's personal a little bit, but
It's
not.
personal, but I try, like, maybe you bring value to the company and you're working in marketing, so a KPI is super important. Depends the field you're in, but I try to sum up your best quality in 3 to 4 sentences.
So that's what they'll look at.
And that's what they'll look at. Right under that is core competencies and skills. So people always think, oh, it's tech skills. Well, not necessarily. People want to know, are you a good negotiator? Are you a good communicator? How's time management? So those skills are equally, if not more important than the hard skills.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Public speaking, and people forget about that. So I always put that in the resume. People go, oh my God, I never thought to do that. I probably never would have either if I didn't sit in all these talent conferences, because you're always like Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word and this and that, or people will write like they're a proficient X. Doesn't matter if you know a little bit of it, put it on your resume. If you don't know it, don't put it on your resume.
Right, right. And do you teach them how to
And there's 2 really other
Rejection.
important things.
if they get rejected immediately? I don't think they'll get rejected from the interview. They'll say,
Yeah,
they
I
get
try to-
they get the same old like, oh yeah, we'll call you. We'll call you.
Well, I always tell them also a thank you note's really important. Most people nowadays, like, there's always like, forget it. It's still important, even if it's a 2-minute email. Larry, thanks for taking the time to speak with me. I look forward to the next steps. That's it. It doesn't have to be a whole long letter, but it means a lot when you take that extra time to thank you.
Cool. That's very
Something
impressive.
really important, and I learned this in college, and it was huge, and it's still huge. When they're getting ready to end the interview, ask at least 2 questions. Whether it's about the job or the company, it shows you're so interested in whether it's them or the company, etc. And also bring engaging stories with you. So those 2 things are huge. Like having not an hour-long story, but a really short story. And when I was in Syracuse, the interview process, we learned how to interview, and it was amazing. I don't know if most schools still do that, and this was back in 1982. And they suggested in my retail class when I was graduating, buy the book, What Color is Your Parachute? And to this day, I recommend it to everybody. You can get it on Amazon, and it is one. And I don't get a penny for it. I'm not marketing them. I'm not an affiliate. It's just such a great book for so many skills, and it's still around. It's been around probably 60, 70 years, the book.
How do you get your clients to be relaxed enough to, because some people freeze. It's like writing an exam if they're at the interview. There are people who don't interview well.
I know, and that's another thing that I try to work as hard as I can. And then, I recently had a guy, and then he started crying to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm like a career coach. I'm not a shrink. But he opened up how his mother has made him feel so little and never gave her confidence.
And he talked about this
So
during
by
the interview?
He talked about this as I was, coaching him to do stuff.
He probably
So
hired
as
his
we
mother.
As we got to the end, he goes, oh my God, you opened up my world with my skill set. You gave me so much confidence. And so it makes me feel so good if I can change one person and just not fix them, because we all have our stuff, but I feel like I've been doing this a long time, and I can read people, and if I can help people get a job and really be happy with what they do, it's so important, because I love what I do.
With your specialty in the hospitality industry, would you say that you could target more people into that type of employment? Like, where do you see that there's greatest vacancy right now? People looking for employment.
Unfortunately, every field.
Every field.
I mean, every
Even
field.
President of the United States right now. There's a vacancy.
Well,
Okay.
Don't run for it, Larry. We won't vote for you.
I also tell people, sometimes, and I can bring this on a personal level, my daughter lost her job from a startup a few months ago. And she so badly wanted to work at like another startup. And I said, Lindsay, just keep applying, because she's in consumer insight and data analytics and all of this like news kind of stuff. And she ended up interviewing with 5 companies. She got 3 offers.
Wow.
And I said, even if you don't love the field where she ended up going into, it's a solid company. Look at the benefits and look how you can grow. Don't necessarily look at the money. A lot of people think the money is where they want to go. They get a lot of money and they can't produce, or it doesn't work out. 3 months later, they're out the door. So even if you don't love it, and especially now, if you don't love so much that field, but you like what you're doing, stay and learn. The next 6 to 8 months are going to be a really tough time.
Well, something you were saying about Indeed, and a lot of people might not realize this, it's not just to find the jobs, but you can go in and see what people have to say about the company.
I don't really believe in that, because here's the time. Some people don't get hired. Some people get fired.
So you're talking about people who would only complain about the company?
I think so. Let's say you and me are sitting next to each other, and we're on a dating app, and I go, wow, he looks great. And you go, oh, I went out with him, and it's like he wanted to go to Applebee's, and he made me split the bill. So you might have one feeling about him, and then I went out with him, and he took me to this amazing restaurant because we had chemistry. You and him didn't. So
No, because you wore the low-cut dress.
I was.
And I did not. Yeah. You wore the high heel shoes.
I didn't wear any dress.
We might
So
have to
that's-
get you in a tennis skirt
Oh, there
That's
we go.
to
interesting.
show those legs for the next golf gallery.
That's right, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so you're saying do not trust those things then.
I don't necessarily believe in them. I really don't. And then sometimes people could say great things about a product, and maybe their friends and their friends got to write reviews for them. So I don't really trust what
Okay.
anybody says.
All right.
That's me personally, because everyone also has different opinions on things.
Interesting.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Very,
Uh,
because I'm telling you, it's so different what you must do for a 22-year-old versus a 7-year-old. Like we were trained, you stay in the job, you go for the pension, you get the gold watch. It's very hard for somebody my age to realize, no, they want to see that you've moved and you've learned and you've grown. That was very hard for me to adjust to when I got back into the working field again, you know?
But you got a job now also, and I'm sure you had multiple offers because you have a great skill set and you have a positive attitude, which is so important.
Well, the interesting thing is with sales and with my age, you didn't need thank God, the college degree at that time. They weren't looking for that. It really was, you sold yourself, you got the sales job, you did the work. Right now, it's really hard for these kids even to know what they're going to job. They graduated, like my daughter has economics, and then she went back and became a doctor. Like they move even careers. We would have never thought to do that.
Well, I also think, and maybe, I don't know if it's true for everyone, because our parents, you know, I was in Macy's training program, and my dad, you know, you got to be a buyer and you'll be president. Like, they pushed you also one way. I always take Jerry Seinfeld as my best example. He was probably one of the only people I've ever heard of this about. His parents said, do whatever makes you happy.
Wow.
And maybe that's why he's so successful, because they didn't push him. You got to be a doctor, you got to be a lawyer, you got to be in the tech world. And a second one was my college good friend, and his parents were so excited. He was a computer science major. So back in the late 70s, early 80s, that was like a whole new field. I went to a movie with him. I don't remember the movie. And Paul Newman was an attorney, and my friend looked at me and said, I'm not doing computer science. I'm going to law school. And his parents were so angry. He went to law school, and now he's probably New York's like one of their top PI attorneys. He really, the movie just made his mind like switch a bulb.
Did they call it? They named a bunch of ambulances after him.
They did. But, you know, and he's been super happy and he's been successful. So, you know, went against his parents' grain, and he did what he found, you know, his passion and.
Well, that also depends on the ethnicity. I mean, the Asians have a very strong protocol for their children. They got to go to school. They got to finish college. They got to end up with a degree. Doesn't matter if they're a doctor or an engineer, but preferably something that has a good ranking job. They don't want them in the same business. And for Jews, it was very similar, maybe 25, 30 years ago. The same thing, and I think it's from our upbringing. That's where it became.
Right, but I think it's changing a little. I don't know, you know, for me, I totally see it. Like, my girls would never do what I do. And I'm like, I just want them to be happy and they're focused. They love what they do. Well, you know, when I was married and my kids were babies, and my ex-husband was doing just okay. We needed extra money, so I used to do bookkeeping at night. I mean, I had a lot of different jobs until I figured out. I learned the recruiting business and it worked, but I did a lot of things to help support my kids and put food on the table. So there are different circumstances to do different things.
Very interesting.
And that's why now I don't get why people are not so anxious to work to make money. I mean, if I wasn't doing resumes and I wasn't recruiting, if I had to be a waitress in a restaurant, I would do it. I would do whatever it takes to pay my bills. And
Well, it's funny because my kids worked through school and everything. I didn't have a university education, so my kids, it was non-negotiable. They had to have some kind of education. And I mean, some of them did acting and stuff like that, but they always had to do the schoolwork no matter what. But now where I'm working, we have some jobs that would be okay. Yeah, that's true.
So she's not young, she's
But-
not old. You know, she has a
In
lot
my
more
case,
years
things
to
were
work.
different. I must have reinvented myself about 7 times. Not. It
Could
might
you go
happen
for
right
8,
now.
Larry?
It
What's
might
going to be
happen
the
now.
eighth?
It might happen right now.
Please.
So I don't know. I don't know. I never actually filled out a resume. I never created, filled into a job. I created the job myself, whatever it was.
But you were also entrepreneurial. Some people are still entrepreneurial.
Well, some of that stuff I actually was entrepreneurial.
Mm-hmm.
Because
But you still gave things a shot, Larry.
I did.
You know,
I gave things a shot, definitely.
and you've been a hard worker, and so if you failed at one thing, you would try the other. To me, since I know you've been that, you're not going to just sit and wait for something to come your way.
No, there's no point. But some people can do that, and some people can't. I fortunately, I don't have a gun to my head.
I might put one to you.
Well, there's an
give me a
interest.
date
Hey,
for
don't
a
say
golf
this. We have this on
outing.
tape. This is not good.
Oh.
Be careful. If something happens,
You're gonna be on. You're gonna be on Dateline.
You didn't like that job, so it was over.
She didn't like the final cut, Larry. You're done.
Put it this way: he blew his mind with his last interview.
You could be
So-
creative. Like I remember sending someone a crazy pair of socks and saying, "How do I get my foot in the door?"
Anyways, this is the whole. So basically, what you're saying is the presentation is extremely important when they're coming. Forget about the. Let's go past the resume. That you've given the guy the resume. Now you want to create a presentation. You mentioned something to me that this one trick will get you 90% successful in landing the proper job. This is what.
And that's definitely the interview.
It's the interview. Okay.
It's definitely the interview.
So what key points would you say, on the interview?
Yeah, never ever tell anybody. And I believe this even with dating. If you're positive, it goes a long way.
How can you be
You know,
positive
if
if
you
you're
hate it-
Jewish? Everything's wrong.
Larry, you have to be positive. No one wants to hear complaining. No one wants to be negative. But positivity, and I believe that's why my dad lived till 91. He was the most positive person I've ever met. And he was nice to the mailman. He was nice to the CFO. Be nice to everybody. It doesn't cost extra money to smile, to be positive, to be nice, to be professional. The world is small, and I believe in karma. So never talk bad about anybody, even if you hate them, even if you hated your boss. Forget about it. You had a job. You had to learn some skills. Take the positive of what you learned, even if you hated the company, and take all the positivity, what you learned, to bring on that interview.
But how do you give somebody that positivity? Like that's something to me. Aren't you kind of born with it?
Right. However, sometimes if you are staying in the same industry, people know people. It's a small world. People know people. Or they can look on Facebook and see maybe we have mutual connections. Maybe I can reach out to somebody behind closed doors for the reference.
Or on LinkedIn. LinkedIn itself is very cool.
Or LinkedIn. There were many, many years that I've been down and out, and I didn't want to get out of bed under my own covers. I've suffered anxiety and depression just like each and every person
Really?
out there. And it started in my late 20s. I was on a business trip, and I had my first anxiety and panic attack, and I've had so many dark years. I've had 2 relationships. I had to raise my kids. My mom had dementia. I had an elderly dad. I had great years making money. I had years I was penniless, living on friends' basements. So I also had to figure out, what am I going to do? Now I'm a mom. I gotta be there for my kids.
About it, I was housebound for years.
Were you really?
Oh yeah. After my mother passed away, and I had 2 little kids. Housebound, like I couldn't go and pick them up
Oh,
at
my
school.
God. I'm sorry.
My sister had to do that, and then I started being able to work at the shopping channel. People used to look at me and say, "Oh my God!" Like
You were
just,
right out there. No one would ever figure that.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It's like Robin Williams. He was a comedian, or so many of these people we look at and they look so happy, but I think so many people really suffer. insecurity. So that was another thing. I was so insecure going on interviews, being young. I try to build up someone's confidence. Everyone's great in their own way. Right, I always try to go that extra step because you know what? We're people, and sometimes even me, like they'll annoy me, or like I'm in a business meeting and they'll text me, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, they're really just a nice person. Maybe I'm having a bad moment. So now I sit back and wait, and I'll get back to them when I'm like, okay, let's speak now, because I also want to give them my time and be in a good head space.
How did somebody get in touch with you? We're going to put a link on the YouTube channel with your website. Okay.
Okay, I'll give you my website and my LinkedIn page.
You want to give us a
Message me.
www verbally right now, because this is going to be also on podcast.
www my LinkedIn or my Recruiting Rockstar.
You're a recruiting rockstar. Not
That is, it's therecruitingrockstar.com.
okay. Oh my God! All right. And your email is already on there as well. So if somebody
It's
wants
on
to
my LinkedIn and my link. My
Not
name is
everybody's on
Michelle.
LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, but I never use it. I never.
Well, I
absolutely
think
never.
the majority of people now that are looking for a job are learning to use LinkedIn. I think it is the number one tool globally.
So, what would drive a person seeking employment, whether they're male or female, to go to you as opposed to one of these companies like Indeed or whatever?
I just think that, you know, I have a one personality, I can be funny, and I want to spend time with you one-on-one. I'm not a big company,
That's what I
and I'm
wanted to
not
hear.
getting paid. You know, I'm not getting paid $18 an hour to go and do it. I'm doing it because I truly love what I do. I love talking to people, helping people, and developing relationships.
Marlene, it's always a
Hi.
blast to be with you, Best. And Michelle, thanks so much.